Welcome back to the deep dive. We do the heavy lifting for you, digging through all the research to pull out exactly what you need to know. Today, we're taking a high-speed look at where global finance meets decentralized tech. We're talking about the Keeta network.
Yeah, and this one really needs a closer look. Keeta isn't, just another layer one trying to get noticed. It's setting itself up specifically as a platform to bring together traditional finance, TradFi, and the fast-moving world of decentralized finance, DeFi.
Right.
But the big difference here, the key thing, is that compliance, especially for institutions, isn't just tacked on, it's actually part of its core design.
Exactly. And that core idea is pretty bold.
Yeah.
Institutional level compliance, but combined with absolutely massive performance claims. We're talking super high throughput, cross-chain capabilities, speeds that could honestly blow past what major credit cards handle today. So we've gone through the sources you've provided, and we've boiled down our mission for you today into three key questions. One, who actually created this project and, how involved are they day to day, given how demanding it sounds?
Crucial question.
Two, what's the vibe in the community right now? Is there buzz? How are they actually promoting it online? And three, maybe the most important one for the future. What's the real projected potential of Keeta if, and it's a big if, they pull this off?
Yeah, that framework is perfect because you can't really judge the potential without looking closely at who's building it and the, well, pretty unique tech foundation they're using. Let's start with the vision. It's clearly institution first. Keeta wants to be the common ground for, all global payment networks and digital assets.
So any kind of value.
Any kind. Fiat money, compliant stablecoins, tokenized real-world stuff. The goal is to bring it all into one regulated, unified platform that settles instantly.
Okay, let's pause on institutional integration for a second, because it sounds like it's more than just making blockchain work for banks.
It is. It's about being built by people who get what banks need.
Right.
So you've got built-in digital ID verification, stablecoins designed to be compliant from the start, and rules enforced right on the chain. All specifically designed to meet those really tough regulatory standards that big financial players, governments even, require before they'll even think about using something new.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's designed for them, not just adapted to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into who's steering this ship. Because the leadership team, right away, tells you a lot about their main goal, speed and performance. Looking at the sources, the key executives have this background in low-latency payments. The CEO is Tai Shank, noted as a former Nano developer, and the CTO, Roy Keane, identified as an ex-Nano lead developer.
Yeah, and that background is probably the most critical piece of context when you look at their technical claims. For listeners maybe not super deep in crypto history, Nano is famous, really pioneered the block lattice structure.
Right, designed for fast, feeless transactions way back.
Exactly. So the core team here at Keeta, they basically wrote the book on designing low-latency, payment-focused systems. This isn't just marketing talk, it's deep in their DNA.
So what does that Nano experience suggest about how they're approaching Keeta? Because Nano, even though it was groundbreaking, did hit some scaling walls, right? Spam, congestion.
Precisely. And that's key. They didn't just build Nano. They experienced its limitations firsthand as it grew. So the fact that they come from that background suggests two things. One, this relentless focus on performance. But two, a really deep understanding of what can go wrong, what bottlenecks these payment-focused layer ones.
So they're trying to build beyond those limitations.
Exactly. They're trying to evolve past what they learned before. Their presence alone is a huge validator for the speed claims, initially anyway. They know the theoretical limits and they're trying to break through them.
Okay, but leadership isn't just about the tech smarts. You need buy-in, you need confidence from others. And the documents show there's serious involvement beyond just the core dev team, which signals, major external confidence.
Big time. We're talking high-profile backing here. This is where it kind of shifts from just a crypto startup to something potentially bigger in tech. The investor list, according to what we've seen, includes Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google.
Wow. Okay, that's significant.
It's huge. When someone who ran global internet infrastructure at Google puts his weight and his money behind a project like this, that's not just a random bet. It signals a deep belief in the team's ability to execute something on a global scale. Schmidt's involvement is almost like an institutional stamp of approval.
And it doesn't stop there, right? They seem to be building an institutional brand from the get-go.
They are. Their branding was done by Red Antler.
Oh, the firm that launched a lot of those big direct-to-consumer tech brands.
That's the one,
The-
which tells you they're aiming for mass market understanding and institutional trust, not just, talking to crypto insiders.
Makes sense. And the infrastructure partners.
Also top tier, working with Google Cloud for specific services, using ChainSpect for security and auditing. This isn't a team trying to run servers out of a garage. They're plugged into major providers from day one. Again, crucial if you want to meet the service level agreements, the SLAs, that big financial institutions demand.
So back to our first question. How actively are they involved? We need more than just names. We need proof. And the sources seem to point to the roadmap for that. It sounds pretty aggressive. Mainnet launch planned for summer 2025.
Yes, but here's the kicker. Right after that launch, they've scheduled public third-party performance audits.
Audits. Public ones.
Public ones. They're not just saying they can hit high speeds, they're setting up a public test to prove they can consistently hit over 10 million transactions per second. 10 million TPS.
Okay, that's intense.
That kind of demanding schedule, combined with being super transparent about verifying it, that screams active, committed leadership. They're basically putting their architecture out there for everyone to test, making a huge, measurable bet on it.
And that bet, 10 million TPS, that's just orders of magnitude faster than Visa, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That number is so massive, it immediately makes you ask, okay, how? Why should we believe this? What are they doing differently, and what are the trade-offs?
And that skepticism is totally fair. Which brings us right into section 2, because without some fundamentally different tech, that potential we talked about is basically zero. So let's hit those numbers again. Over 10 million TPS, and settlement final confirmation in about 400 milliseconds.
Sub-second. Global finality.
Exactly.
So how? What's the tech that lets them jump so far ahead of other layer ones that are struggling to get into, like 4 or 5-digit TPS?
The core idea is they've completely ditched the bottleneck of linear block confirmation.
Okay, explain that. Linear blocks are like Bitcoin or early Ethereum, right? One transaction waits for the next in line, basically.
Pretty much. Everything has to get bundled into a block. Confirmed in order, it creates a queue. Keeta gets around this using a parallelized, directed acyclic graph structure, a DAG.
All right, let's unpack DAG. If a normal blockchain is like one long single-file line, how does a DAG change things?
It completely reorganizes consensus. Instead of one big chain, transactions happen across individual parallel account chains.
Okay, so like my account has its own little ledger.
Sort of. Think of it like this. In a bank, everyone stands in the same queue. In Keeta's DAG model, each account manages its own mini-chain. So when you send money to me, your account updates its ledger, my account receives the confirmation. This lets thousands, maybe millions of transactions confirm at the same time across the network.
Ah, I see. That gets you the speed because you're not waiting in one global line.
Exactly. Huge boost in throughput.
But there's always a but in crypto, right? Parallel processing sounds fast, but doesn't that make it hard to keep everything consistent? How do you stop double spends if things are happening all at once across different chains?
That is the crucial challenge, and this is where Keeta made a really significant and potentially controversial foundational choice. Google Cloud Spanner.
Google Cloud Spanner.
A DAG needs an incredibly reliable, consistent backbone to coordinate all that parallel activity. They found it in this globally distributed database service from Google Cloud.
Spanner isn't just any cloud database, though, is it? It's built for huge global services that absolutely cannot fail. What does it give them technically that most blockchains don't have built in?
It gives them what banks absolutely demand: full ACID compliance.
ACID, right. Atomicity, consistency, isolation, durability. Let's quickly break down why a financial institution cares so much about those 4 letters.
Okay, quick dive. Atomicity means a transaction's all or nothing. If you send $100, the money has to leave your account. A and D arrive in the other. Can't have one without the other.
Makes sense. No half transactions.
Consistency ensures every transaction keeps the database valid. You can't create money out of thin air or make balances not add up. The books always balance.
Okay, so atomicity and consistency guarantee the accounting is right. What about isolation and durability?
Isolation is vital for that parallel speed. It means simultaneous transactions don't mess with each other. Even if thousands of payments are happening, yours acts like it's the only one. Super important for a DAG. And durability. Once a transaction is confirmed, it's permanent. It survives crashes, power outages. It's written down forever. Perfect for audits and regulatory needs.
So Spanner provides this industrial-strength database integrity.
which allows Keeta's DAG to be incredibly fast without sacrificing the kind of financial reliability that TradFi absolutely needs.
That is a really interesting trade-off, and there's data to back this up. The performance isn't just theoretical for Spanner.
Correct. The sources mentioned stress tests showing Spanner handled over 11 million TPS and 300,000 queries per second at peak.
So Keeta isn't just hoping some database tech can handle it. They're building on proven, massive Google infrastructure.
It's a strategic decision. They've essentially traded some degree of pure decentralization for guaranteed institutional-grade performance and data integrity. This choice really defines what Keeta is.
And that dependence on a centralized cloud service, like Spanner, for scalability. That's the big question mark, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Doesn't that kind of go against the whole decentralized idea of blockchain? Is Keeta just a really fast enterprise database with a crypto layer on top?
That's the core tension, and we definitely need to circle back to that. To try and maintain some control and consensus over this structure, Keeta uses what they call voting representatives.
Okay, what do they do?
These are specific nodes that use a two-step voting process. They're like the human governance and security layer that pre-approves operations, but they're still leveraging Spanner's ACD guarantees to make sure all that parallel data stays consistent and permanent across the network.
So it's a hybrid approach.
Yeah.
Decentralized nodes, managing consensus, but relying on centralized infrastructure for the heavy lifting of consistency and speed.
That's a good way to put it. A blend. Trying to get the best of both worlds, maybe.
Okay, now let's talk about the part that might actually get bugs interested. Compliance by design. How is that actually built in? What tools do they offer?
It's native. It's not some add-on application. They have built-in support for KYC Amrana, Know Your Customer, anti-money laundering using on-chain identity certificates.
Issued by
Trusted, certified providers. So for institutions using the network, anonymity isn't really an option. Their identity can be verified and linked to what they do on-chain.
Which is exactly what regulators want to see.
Precisely. Now, for regular users, the level of privacy might be different, adjustable maybe. But for institutional use, identity is verifiable, rules are enforced from the start. And crucially, they built a flexible rules engine specifically designed for global standards like ISO 2022.
ISO 2022.
Yeah.
That's the standard language banks use to talk to each other globally for payments.
Exactly. So by building their rules engine to understand and work with ISO 2022, Keeta makes itself immediately usable by existing banks. The network adapts to their compliance rules, not the other way around.
That lowers the barrier to entry significantly.
Hugely. And connecting this back to scalability, the tech sources say the architecture is built for huge adoption. Adding more representative nodes apparently increases throughput linearly. And it can automatically scale capacity up or down without downtime.
So the infrastructure is designed, at least on paper, to handle massive global payment volumes from day one. Okay, so we've got involved leadership with a specific background and really interesting, if somewhat centralized technology. But any project bridging DeFi needs real community support, right? A decentralized buzz. What do the sources say about how people feel about Keeta?
The description is generally very active and quite bullish. Sentiment scores across social media seem strong. And importantly, the engagement isn't just people holding the token. It looks like visible participation.
Visible where? Like just hype on Twitter, or is it deeper?
It seems deeper. Lively discussions mentioned across different platforms focusing on price targets, sure, but also project milestones and even the technical details. The community seems genuinely interested in the innovation, which apparently generates a kind of viral interest in the wider Keeta ecosystem, including developers getting involved and people participating in governance.
Interesting. That sounds like the leadership's transparency might be working.
It seems to be resonating.
And I think a really big piece driving this support, structurally anyway, comes back to their tokenomics, how the tokens are distributed. The community allocation is roughly half, right? Around 50% of the total supply. That seems high.
It is quite high. 50% is significantly more than many new layer ones give to the community, where often VCs or the founding foundation keep larger chunks. Handing over that much potential governance power is a massive incentive for people to get involved. It shifts them from just being investors to being actual stakeholders.
So what does that large allocation really mean in practice? It lets holders propose changes, vote on the network's direction, ensures participation. But is there a risk there too? Could a 50% community pot still end up controlled by a few big whales who swing the votes?
That's always a risk with on-chain governance, yeah. The sources suggest the specific design of their voting system tries to counter this, aiming for broad distribution and active voting, not just passive holding. But the core idea is clear. If the community holds that much power, they're motivated to promote the project's success, assuming the distribution is reasonably wide. The leadership wants decentralized control over the protocol's future direction, it seems.
Okay, so how does the leadership keep this interest going? How do they turn positive sentiment into actual promotion and keep things transparent?
Well, the sources outline a pretty clear approach: regular, detailed roadmap updates, professional social media campaigns, and crucially, they consistently release developer tools and SDKs, software development kits.
Ah, so targeting the builders too.
Exactly. That transparent, action-focused style seems to build support from both developers, who need the tools to create apps, and the grassroots community, who fuel adoption.
So engagement isn't just hype. It's driven by actual participation in governance, staking the token, giving feedback.
Right. That steady flow of real information plus actual voting power seems to be what's keeping the sentiment positive and bullish.
Okay, so we have the founders, the specialized tech, the community buy-in. Now let's look forward. Let's analyze their targets, the projected potential.
Right, let's start with the token itself, the KTA tokenomics. Ticker is KTA. Total supply is capped at 1 billion tokens. According to the sources, as of October 2025, the circulating supply was around 431 million KTA. That gave it a market cap of about $161 million USD at that time.
That market cap figure is interesting, $161 million. It means it's established, has some funding and track record, but it's still small enough that if they deliver on these big institutional promises, there's potentially huge room for growth.
Exactly. It's not starting from zero, but it's far from mature market cap levels.
So what about utility? Why would a bank or some high-frequency payment firm actually need to buy or use KTA?
The utility is designed to be layered, driving demand from multiple angles. First, obviously, network fees. You pay in KTA to compensate the nodes processing transactions, but it's also needed for staking by those voting representatives we talked about that provides security and consensus.
Okay, fees and staking, standard stuff.
Right. It's also the governance token, naturally, and this is key. It serves as collateral for issuing other assets on the platform. Think tokenized real-world assets, like loans or bonds.
Ah, so if you want to bring real-world value onto Keeta, you might need KTA as backing.
That seems to be the mechanism. Plus, it's used for participation incentives. Basically, everything from using the network to securing it involves KTA.
So the design tries to ensure that as usage grows, especially institutional usage, there's direct demand for the token itself.
Exactly. Adoption strategy and token economics are tightly linked. Now let's look at the near-term roadmap, because that's where potential starts becoming reality. We already mentioned the mainnet launch in summer 2025 and those planned public audits aiming for the 10 million TPS mark.
Right, the big performance test. But the partnerships you mentioned seem even more indicative of that institutional focus. Tell us about the stablecoin plan.
Yeah, the stablecoin strategy is all about compliance and liquidity. They're working with established, reputable issuers to bring fully backed, compliant US dollar stablecoins onto Keeta. The sources mention examples like Agora USD and KUSD. These aren't meant to be speculative coins. They're designed to meet strict regulatory requirements from day one.
And there's an economic angle there too, right? Compliant stablecoins can sometimes generate fees or value that flows back into the ecosystem.
Yes, often through mechanisms like ecosystem buybacks, which adds more utility and economic activity around the core KTA token, potentially driving value.
Smart loop.
It needs to be. But the use case that really highlights that bridge potential is the partnership with Solo.
Solo for verified financial identity.
Exactly. This enables what they're calling an on-chain credit bureau component.
Okay, that sounds disruptive. How does Keeta's built-in compliance help make that possible?
By using Keeta's native on-chain ID certificates and the KYCML framework, this partnership allows for real-world lending applications that have been really hard to do efficiently on most blockchains before. We're talking things like mortgages, lines of credit, small business loans originated, serviced, and tracked directly on the Keeta chain.
Wow. So you could have a borrower, their identity verified to Tradefi standards, their credit history accessible on-chain, interacting with DeFi speed and maybe fractional ownership possibilities.
That's the vision. Instant, verifiable, cross-border lending decisions. It's the ultimate bridge. taking sticky real-world assets and putting them onto a high-speed, compliant digital platform.
Okay, but if you have all these tokenized assets and loans flying around, you need liquidity, right? People need to trade them.
Absolutely. Which is why they're planning to launch a native decentralized exchange, a DX.
An internal DX. Why not just connect to existing big ones like Uniswap?
Relying on external bridges to move value between chains always introduces risks, security holes, extra fees, delays, complexity. An internal DX keeps everything streamlined. It allows trading between different assets, maybe fiat to token, or a tokenized loan to a stablecoin, right there within the Keeta ecosystem, keeps the liquidity safe, fast, and compliant on their own layer.
Makes sense. Keep it all under one roof. So if that's the near term, what about the longer view, 2026 and beyond? How do they plan to go deeper with institutions and maybe reach consumers?
The focus seems to shift towards broader access and tighter integration with the legacy financial world. We see plans for core features like Keeta Pay, that sounds like the crucial fiat on-ramps and off-ramps needed for easy use globally, and even a planned Keeta card for everyday spending.
Okay, so solving that last mile problem, getting money in and out easily, both for regular people and businesses.
Looks like it. And for the institutions, the goal is deeper integration. The roadmap mentions advanced compliance tools, things called FX anchors.
FX anchors for foreign exchange.
Sounds like tools to manage currency exchange risk directly on-chain. Plus, major upgrades to the developer SDKs to make it super easy for banks and big financial players to plug into Keeta. The ambition seems to be making Keeta the default plumbing for global institutional payments.
And those potential connections listed in the sources. They're speculative, maybe, but they hint at a huge potential scale. Names like Visa.
Yeah, alongside big DeFi names like Aerodrome and Uniswap and stablecoin issuers like Agora.
So the ultimate picture they're painting is connecting the absolute top tier of traditional payments, like Visa-level scale.
Directly to the powerhouses of DeFi, like Uniswap, all running on Keeta's compliant high-speed rails.
That's a massive vision. Okay, it sounds incredibly bullish on paper,
Yeah.
but what's the sober market view? What are analysts saying about KTA if Keeta actually pulls off this roadmap?
Well, the analyst outlook seems entirely dependent on execution. If they deliver, experts cited in the sources predict potentially significant price increases as that utility gets unlocked and adoption ramps up. The sentiment is described as strongly bullish, mainly because Keeta is carving out this unique niche in compliant high-performance finance. But the potential hinges on two main things, according to analysts. First, technically delivering on that 10 million TPS promise they have to pass those public audits.
Right, prove the tech works at scale.
Second, continuing to land those significant real-world partnerships we just talked about. The solo partnership is a start, but they need more like it.
So bringing it all together, what's the absolute critical path to success? How does Keeta go from promising idea to actual working reality?
It really comes down to that trifecta we've been discussing. One, deliver the features, especially hitting that public 10 MTPS target. Proof is everything. Two, keep the community genuinely involved and active. That 50% token allocation needs to translate into engaged governance, not just passive holding. And three, maintain that edge in compliance features, in speed, and in attracting global liquidity. If they can nail the institutional grade performance and the compliant stablecoin strategy, their potential to become a core piece of global payment infrastructure is, well, it's pretty unprecedented. Hashtag outro.
Okay, that was definitely a deep dive into what feels like a truly ambitious infrastructure play. It's trying to redefine high performance in this space. So just to quickly synthesize what we found, Keeta Network's built on a unique technical base and parallelized DAG structure. But crucially, it leans heavily on Google Cloud Spanner to get the AC consistency that TradFi demands and to enable those massive performance claims.
And that foundation is being built by people with highly relevant experience. Tai Schenk, Roy Keane, the ex-Nano devs. Their background directly supports the speed mission. And they've got serious external validation, too, from investors like Eric Schmidt and top-level branding help.
And importantly, addressing our second question, there seems to be genuine community momentum. It's fueled by transparency and an active community that actually holds significant governance power because of that big 50% token allocation.
Yeah, and for the third question, that projected potential isn't just talk. It's starting to take shape through concrete partnerships, like the on-chain credit bureau idea with Solo, which is designed precisely to bridge regulated real-world finance with DeFi's speed.
So for you, the listener, this provides a really comprehensive look at a project that's tackling head-on the major friction points, regulation, and performance that have kept big finance mostly on the sidelines of blockchain until now.
It's purpose-built for that bridge role.
Which brings us back to that core tension we flagged earlier, the central, maybe philosophical question.
Yeah.
Our final provocative thought for you to consider. Keeta's use of Google Cloud Spanner is ingenious for hitting performance and durability targets.
Yeah.
It guarantees the kind of consistency global finance needs. No question there.
Right.
But it raises this fundamental issue. Can a network aiming to transform global payments truly maintain that decentralized, trust-minimized ideal if its core scalability relies so heavily on a centralized proprietary cloud service like Spanner?
Or has Keeta actually created something different altogether? Maybe a new category, a powerful, compliant financial utility that intentionally chooses guaranteed performance over pure decentralization. Something for you to mull over.